Hey Matt, hey Mick.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
G'day. And hey audience, good to be back again this week in the shed. We got a special guest here today coming onto the show, Mick. We're going to dive into, ARM versus, x64 Lambda functions. It's going to be really good. But it's hot today here, Matt. I'm really hot in my shed today. How about you, Matt?
So for international peeps, like I'm actually in my shorts and jandals. So thongs or what are sandals? Like what do we call them in America? That's like not
Flip-flops?
flip flops. Yeah, there we go. So I'm actually like, and I've got the air conditioner on. So even though it's a little bit dark, it's really muggy and it's really hot. So I think we've just hit the first end of first start of summer.
Yeah.
Uh,
Matt and I are in Victoria. Mick, you're in Queensland, right?
Yeah, that's right. North Queensland. So it's a little bit warmer up here, I'd say. Pretty humid.
Yeah,
nice.
it's real hot here today.
And it's funny because I had my friend from Atlanta and he's like ringing, he's like, it's so cold, it's snowing, like it's the worst, right? So it's funny that we have like the exact opposite temperature to like half the other side of the world.
Well, I mean, at this time, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was, I think like right at this date, I was in the US on the east coast of the US, and it was, there was snow, there was snow around, and we were collecting a Christmas tree, and it was freezing cold, and completely different, and really good fun over there. But given that, this time of the year is also pretty special, coming up next week is reInvent. There's been a couple, I guess, a flurry of pre-reInvent announcements that have come out, and Matt, you've got like a really interesting one. Even though we decided not to specifically do like a whole bunch of what's new, we thought this one was worth mentioning because it's a very passionate area for both of us.
Yeah, and if you are in America, like just call out, first up, definitely try and get into reInvent. We will be streaming it in Australia, so I'll be catching up after hours when it's my morning in Australia and following along the week. Should be some really good things announced there. I know there's been a huge amount of hype. And as probably like a lot of you know on the channel, I'm pretty biased towards Amplify. We've had some pretty good episodes lately on it. I just really like that, there's simplicity in that, and you don't have to deal with the complexity of like AWS until, like you start to need to break things out. So this is one thing that like is really, really big this week. Basically, Amplify backends can now be exported to CDK, and you can use that with your existing deployment pipelines as well. And so it's kind of like the way that I'd look at it is like two-way Amplify, right? It makes Amplify projects a lot easier to be able to be like taken from, to back-end developers to kind of like continue building out that infrastructure. Putting things into CDK is really good as well because it means the developers that are working on the front end app, especially if it's JavaScript, they're using a language that's really familiar with them. So I'm really excited to actually play with this. I'm not going to talk too much about it today, but I'll definitely put the blog in the channel so you can take a look as well. So give me 2 seconds. I'll post it in for people to read up. There we go. Should be out to everyone now. What we are going to do is we're going to do like a 10-minute video where I'm actually going to use the Amplify CLI, and I'm going to fumble my way around getting what I've already created an existing Amplify project into CDK, and I'm going to do that on our YouTube channel. So I'll just put the link in, and that will appear probably in the next couple of days, right, when Paul and I get together. It'll be just a quick 10-minute snippet video. I don't want to kind of do too much with it. And I can see in the chat, Sign 6 is going to reInvent, so that's really awesome. Hopefully we'll be there next year. So Paul and I couldn't make it this year, but we're really keen to get back to reInvent and, enjoy Vegas, but maybe stay a couple of weeks, go to Canada, enjoy the snow. And it's a great time of year to be up in America. So I guess that's kind of it in terms of like quick announcements. Didn't want to spend too much time on it. What is in store for us today in particular, Paul? Like, I guess, Mick, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure, yeah. So obviously my name is Mick. I'm actually an AWS community builder on the Dev Tools stream. So just coming along today to really talk about Lambda and the ARM announcement about a month ago. Just a big AWS fan. Been using AWS for quite some time now, primarily on the serverless cloud native side. So yeah, pretty excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
Excellent, and we really liked your blog that you did. Let me get a link in the chat so people can read along as well. But this blog was really impressive, right? Like Paul and I, we geeked out because I'm Amplify, Paul's really Lambda. Maybe my second favorite service is Lambda. That's a hard one. But we did a really quick 5-minute video on Graviton 2 when Lambda did support it, and we migrated a couple of existing Lambdas. But then we caught your blog, and it was really good. It's really interesting, like in the fact that you're benchmarking essentially, the speeds of ARM versus x86 or x64 based, chipsets, and it's not a straight line sometimes, right? Like it depends on the workload. It depends on what you're trying to do. You can have different performance traits, I'd say, based on the workload, right? Like Graviton's always going to save you money. But in terms of pure performance, a lot of the time it's going to be faster, but there's going to be a lot of times where, x86 makes sense still too. Did you kind of want to talk through your blog a little bit, Mick, to get started?
Yeah, I'll just do a bit of an intro on the write-up. So, same sort of things that you've already said. So I went into Lambda ARM with, thinking this is going to be, a pretty easy cutover. It's just a little switch that you toggle and you're running ARM and everything will be sweet. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be running faster. So what's not to like? And as I sort of dig into it a little bit more, just wasn't that clear cut. And it just really becomes about, observability and having a look at what you're currently running and doing some tests and making sure it makes sense for you. Obviously, AWS are investing a lot of money in ARM as well, as you can see, lots of ARM announcements. So it's pretty cool. Basically, what I did was just had a bit of a look for what a benchmark would be. So just a little CPU test, how I was going to actually do that. So using the client, I wanted to test from my network out to AWS just to provide that separation. So I'm using that Artillery IO client, which is really good. It's really straightforward to use. It's just a definition, markup style configuration, which you can easily configure. You can use API keys. You can use different payloads. You can do different methods, those sorts of things. So when you've got just a standard sort of design where you're looking at AWS and you've got an API gateway and then hitting multiple Lambda functions, it was a bit of an easy one to configure and get up and running. I threw in containers as well, just out of interest. I was really curious to see how that might impact the cold start as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So just using containers, which are just sitting in that ECR, the registry there, so nice and easy to use as well. And again, just using CDK, love CDK, big fan of it, use it all the time. So I was really excited that with this announcement, CDK support just came out of the box, and we're starting to see that more and more, as well as the documentation was there as well, which I think that's some of the feedback that AWS have been getting, and they're really working on that, which is pretty good. So I ran all of this just out of Sydney because Australia is awesome. So why wouldn't you?
That's true.
Yep. And yeah, so this one's just written in Python. So I just use Python. It's nice, easy language to use. That made sense. Obviously, there's a few different languages that you can use in Lambda. So it'd be interesting to see what other languages, how they would perform. So that'd be probably one of the next things to do, really. All of the code's on GitHub. It's all open source. Go grab it, contribute, tear it apart, go for it. That's fine.
Nice. I might share that link out to everyone. Talking about an awesome Australian internet. Paul's just had his internet cut out, so I'll put him back in the video as soon as he's, his internet reconnects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, yep. Cool.
Yeah. Just in that repo there as well. There's a bunch of other projects in there. I try to contribute just CDK applications, just different kind of designs that people might be interested in. If you have any requests, just shout out. I'm happy to sort of mock something up and throw it through. So,
no, that sounds good. So what I might do is I might stop my screen sharing, We will say we'll get Paul back in as well if we if we have him join in. Hopefully, it's not too long an outage. We've had a couple of outages in the last couple of weeks, at least in Melbourne. So I'm hoping that's not the case, and it was just a simple the routers playing up or something. Yep. So I guess what have you got planned today? I know you've got a couple of things to show off. You wanted to kind of show the work in real time as well, and take people through the results, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so what we might do is I can throw some requests at it. So we can use the artillery client, and we'll just throw some requests at the x86 and ARM Lambda functions that we've got there, just in the design that was on the original blog that you showed. Then we can just go through the console. We can bring up some of the stats. We can dig through X-ray, those sorts of things, and just have a quick look. Show you the project structure as well, just for those interested. Show you what CDK is, and yeah, pretty straightforward.
No, that sounds awesome. So what we'll do is we'll pop your screen up in a second. Any questions from the audience? Has anyone just taken a look through the blog? I think it's going to be a pretty fun day today. I always like benchmark results. Feel free to call out in the chat.
It ended up being much longer than I thought. So when I finished the write-up, I had a look and I was like, yeah, there's a lot more words than I thought as well. So just a lot to talk about. So yeah.
No, that's all good. Yeah, these things can get pretty long, pretty fast actually, when you consider all the things that you want to kind of mention in the blog. Paul and myself, like, we started and then we realized how much work it was. So we kind of haven't blogged for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely shout out to the original AWS blog with this announcement, though. If you have a look at it, it was an excellent write-up. They did a bunch of performance testing as well. Plus, they touched on containers. Yeah, it was just a really thorough write-up. So yeah, definitely check that out.
One of the things while we're waiting as well is I did notice that Graviton 2 was supported in Fargate. Was it today? Was that like a brand new hot off the press announcement?
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it for people. Yeah, while you're getting yourself set up, this is the other one. So this is really hot off the press. I haven't actually even had time to read up on it, but 40% better price performance. Fargate's really great, like if you want to manage your ECS or EKS workloads. So you can do that fairly easily with less operations overhead. So big fan of Fargate for managing containers. The same reasons I like Amplify. It's kind of around simplicity, and like you've got complex technologies running under the hood, but AWS is stepping in to help more on the management front. And having Graviton 2 there as an option will work with most apps like pretty easily in terms of portability. So if you've got like applications that you want to save some money in, you can do some testing around. Let me get the article up. Here we go. You can do testing around moving to ARM and Graviton 2 and making sure that you don't have any like binaries that might be giving you some grief. One of the examples I had was I had a Python application in the ORM module that I was using, had some issues on ARM. So I actually moved over to another module, and ORM started working in my Flask app pretty easily. But like 90% of the stuff that you might be running, it should be a fairly easy move. So definitely take a look at that if you are using Fargate or you're looking at Fargate. This could be really good for saving money, but also having better price and performance for Fargate. So I'll stop sharing my screen. I'm just going to check on Paul as well, just make sure he's still alive. We all struggle with our internet. I can't stand it when mine drops, so I'll make sure he's all good.
Yeah, I think that the Amplify CDK announcement was pretty interesting. So on the Community Builders channel, probably a week or two prior, we were just talking about, I guess, fillers to sort of integrate the two. And then when this announcement came out, it was pretty exciting. So there's a lot of people that are going to be looking at this, I think, as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. And how are you tracking there, Mick?
Yeah, I can share my screen if we want to keep moving, or we can.
I think let's keep moving. Paul's disappeared, so hopefully hopefully he gets it sorted quickly. I do know that he ordered Starlink the other week, so maybe if he has picked that up from the post office, he can actually go ahead and set that up instead of NBN. But we'll see. Yeah. NBN's our main network for people that aren't in Australia, so yeah, it's kind of like what we use day to day for cable or fiber.
Cool. So hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yeah, I've popped it up. Let us know if in the audience if we need to zoom in a little bit. It looks readable to me, but maybe one zoom level could help.
See if I can.
It's Command plus. Yeah, there we go.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, this is just CDK. Like I think most of your audience are already familiar with it. So to get this one running, obviously update your CDK to one of the later versions because you're going to want that ARM support. It's probably the most notable feature. Like Matt, as you pointed out in your video as well, it's pretty easy to configure. I haven't updated for a couple of weeks, so I don't know if they've resolved the architecture being a list type as well. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, like Paul and I were wondering about that. We were like, does that mean that you could go both? And it's kind of like you can just use whatever of the two. But no, it was accidentally done as a list, right? So it's one option or another as a string.
Well, yeah, if you look at the CloudFormation upstream, it actually came from there, and I think CDK just replicated it all the way through to do the integration. But obviously it defaults to x86, so you don't have to specify it. It's only if you want to put ARM or just be more explicit.
And you're using Python. Yeah.
You go, yep.
Python 3.8 for this as well. And hey, Aaron, how's it going? I can see you there. So have you tested with Python 3.9 as well? I'd be interested in if there's any difference, right?
Yeah, no, so would I. When I originally did this, I didn't see support for 3.9 as a supported version. So I don't know if that's been released since. So yeah, same thing. I'd like to know. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I might check in the background in the console. I think I saw it, but I could be wrong. Keen to see it because I've upgraded to Python 3.10 locally on my machine.
Well, I know 3.9 works for x86, but I just remember when I went through the console to create a function and select ARM, I didn't think it was selectable. I could be wrong, but yeah, it'd be good to check that out and confirm.
Cool.
The only other notable thing I'll say, I'm using ProGen, so I don't know if everyone's familiar with ProGen. You guys familiar with ProGen at all, Matt?
No, it would be good to get a little bit of a rundown.
Yeah, so ProGen's been coming up. So I think I first heard about it at one of the CDK days and then through the other channels, but it's just basically just an easy way to handle your project configurations. So you'll just have like a central configuration for your projects, and then you can pin the version, and you put all your dependencies in here, and then you chuck in all of your project, description, author, those sorts of things. You can put your, ESLint. There's other workflows you can put in, update your ignore, and then you just use the ProGen or PJ CLI to then run through your synth and deployment, just like CDK, synth and deploy. It's just a really cool project. It's open source. It's gaining a lot of popularity. I definitely check it out. It's a really good
I think the default constructs were made with ProGen when they were kind of exported as well, like if I remember CDK correctly. But that's cool that it's cool that you can use that for CDK projects. Pinning is going to be definitely handy. Now, so I guess take us through like what else we've got here in terms of. I'm guessing you're using SAM for deployment.
No, I'm just deploying straight through CDK or ProGen deploy to deploy the functions.
Okay. So yep,
no SAM. So
nice.
Basically, it's just defining the functions, the requirements, enabling some additional tracing because I wanted to do the X-ray tracing to give us a little bit more visibility as well. It's just saying the source, which is in one of the folders here. So for Lambda, if we look at the performance Lambda program, you can see it just references the basic, Python app that sort of developed here, which is just very simple, single handler, runs through a couple of, compute calculations, returns response, and I just have a local handler here just for local testing. So it's very straightforward. If we look further down, this one's actually got a bucket for some more testing I was doing this week, which is around thumbnails. I won't get into that one too much, but same sort of thing. It's just basically defining a function. This one's got some environment variables. It did need a duration, nothing too out of the ordinary.
Yep.
More functions. So this one's the Docker image. So again, using CDK to say I'm going to create a function from a Docker image, just specifying where the actual configuration is again. So again, it's pretty straightforward with CDK. A lot of the heavy lifting's done for us, which is good. And then just the API gateway. So look, you see the design, it goes through an API gateway. So we're just going to set up a REST API with some methods to hook it up into our functions that we've defined earlier. And that's just going to be our integration here. So x86, and then just over and over again.
Yep.
And then just using an API key. The API key is no limits. It's not, request limited or anything like that. It's open, and just adding it to the stage. And that's the whole stack. Pretty straightforward.
Nice. And I've put the GitHub link up as well. Like we shared it earlier in the chat. So people can kind of visit there. I can repost it again if people join later and kind of want to check the project out. I did like your staging name, by the way. Like, did I catch that very quickly? What was the staging name for your API gateway?
Which one? Was it Kaboom?
Yeah, it was Kaboom.
Yeah, I thought I'd have some fun with it.
Yep, nice.
If you haven't seen Lambda with containers, the Docker files are pretty straightforward. It is just a Docker file, so it's nothing out of the ordinary. So you can kind of just say, there it is. Yeah, just thought I'd show that just in case.
I'd be like, I actually haven't used containers for Lambda before. I'd be really interested to see if there's any core differences in terms of speed using containers, at least for initial launches.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I haven't tested this one probably since I did the write-up for the containers anyway. So it's been sitting idle for a couple of weeks now, or 3 weeks. So it's going to be the first time it's been hit for a while. So it'll be a cold start for sure. We'll try and identify that in X-ray as well. So hopefully we'll see initialization come through and we'll know that it's been cold start, and we'll see how long it takes.
Sounds good. Excellent. Well, let's flip out of the code side and give it a run, maybe.
Yeah. So
I'm just checking in the background as well to see if Python 3.9's out for ARM yet.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Can I make that bigger? I've just got the terminal here, and I've just got the artillery CLI. It's very straightforward. So there's basically an output that you can do, which is a JSON file. You don't have to do the output; it's totally optional. But what it does is it just gives you a bunch of data that you can then turn into a HTML report if you want to. And it just tells you if there was, everything was in success, or you had some timeout issues, how it went, those sorts of things. And then just that definition. So the configuration file, which I've got a sample here. I'll show you how simple it is. Yeah. Just want to make sure my key wasn't in it. So there's a sample here, which you can see on the repo as well. And you basically just say, look, here's my API that I want to hit. Here's how long I want to hit it for. Here's my key. And then these are the paths that you want to hit, which is what you've configured within your API. You can do way more complicated ones than that. That's just a very simple example.
Nice, cool. And by the way, it does look like you can use 3.9 now as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Is it worth trialing a couple of runs on this as well, where we change the memory too? Because I know memory can also increase the amount of cores, but also the performance. Yeah,
definitely. So there's going to be the sort of point where if you increase the memory, it's going to give us another core. Open to suggestions. Can give it a go.
Yeah. Anything the audience would like to see as well, let us know as we run through this. It looks like Paul is completely out. He's gone fully down with his internet. So You might try 4G, but hopefully the outage doesn't last too long. Last time I was out for about 2 or 3 hours first thing in the morning last week. Yeah.
There's no file there. That'll be right. So the initial test, like for this whole thing to go start to finish with the number of tests that I've got, it takes about 15 minutes. So we'll just let this run for a few minutes and then I'll just cancel it.
That sounds good. And we've got somebody that's familiar with our internet. Yep. Yeah. It's good. It's improved massively, like in the last 2 years, I'd say. But we still have our moments where it's completely down. And for me as well, like my 4G doesn't work very well, so I don't have the option of tethering if there's an issue. I've got like 1 bar of 4G.
Yeah. So if you actually saw that that output scrolling, you can see there's codes 200 and 500, and you can see 500 was actually hitting there. I suspect the containers were doing a cold start and they weren't up yet, so I was actually getting a 500 back because it wasn't waiting. But we'll see.
Cool. I was going to say 4G for anyone joining in America. I think it's LTE. I think we have slightly different labels for some bizarre reason. It's the same as cookie versus biscuit as well, right? Like, there's all these foods. You go and visit America, and you're like, oh, I'll have a biscuit, and you mean they go, no, you mean a cookie. Muffins are different as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. What are the muffins?
Yeah.
Just cupcakes, I guess.
Well, like I go an English muffin. It's like a brisket. Oh no, it's not a brisket. It's
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember the term. Oh, yeah. And burgers in Australia, like when you go to America, they're sandwiches, whereas sandwiches are bread with a bit of meat and some salad in between.
Yep.
Feel free to to call out funny things between countries as we wait for this to run as well in the audience. I know a couple of people have that appreciation. They travel for work and they go somewhere else and they realize even though we speak the same language, we kind of don't sometimes. Yeah, and Paul's just gone back to me. He's confirmed fully down.
Fully down. That'll be right.
I'm just going to say join from your phone, but voice only. We don't have to have you on video. Maybe that'll be, maybe that's good enough. Oh, yeah, here's another one. Rockmelon in Australia is cantaloupe in America. Yeah, I've run into that too. Yeah, there we go. Aaron's got it. So a breakfast biscuit in the US is a scone. Or a scone.
Biscuit, that's right.
Yeah.
Biscuits and gravy?
Yeah, biscuits and gravy. I was like thinking of it. I've had it before. I went to this place in Atlanta in the middle of nowhere and Cracker Barrel. Yeah, and I had my friends like tell me like you got to go to Cracker Barrel and like we're in the middle of nowhere and it was like an hour's drive and we had breakfast and yeah, I'm ordering food. I'm like, oh wow, that's what that is. It's the same as what we have. We just call it something different.
Yeah, like a bottomless cup of coffee as well, I imagine.
Yeah.
Cool. I've just cancelled that artillery test now. I'm just having a look in X-ray.
Yep.
To see the traces that have come through. And if we expand this a little bit, you can kind of see those different paths there. So you can see the API gateway with the x86 and the container, the response time. And you can see the response here, which is saying, 105 faults, 81 faults.
Yep.
As well. So that's kind of interesting. I suspect it's the cold start. I'm not too sure right now. So age it's pretty quick. Yeah, so like even that's quicker than, when I originally did the test. So this initialization here, just sorting that by response time in X-ray, because we've got that tracing enabled, and then having a look at the Lambda ARM container, you can see the initialization log is here, and we've got 3 seconds. So that's going to be that cold start time. When we originally did that test, it was like 7 seconds, 9 seconds, something like that. So it was quite lengthy, but that's come down. So it's interesting.
Yeah, actually, when I tested it out the first time, like I was getting 6 or 7 seconds as well, if I remember correctly. Okay. It's interesting. Yeah. I wonder if it's just because we're building out the infrastructure side of the equation, or yeah, who knows? Paul, you're up.
Surprise guest.
Made it.
Excellent. We were joking. This wouldn't happen if you had Starlink already, Paul. Like, when's your Starlink coming?
Yeah, my internet dropped. I logged in this morning. I wanted to see how much data I was using.
Yep.
And I forgot the password. I changed it, but I never updated the password in the modem.
Okay. Yep.
But I didn't put that all together until I made a call. I mean, I can't fault my ISP's service desk. So anyway, I'm back in action.
Nice. No, that's good, and good to hear. It wasn't our network related, but maybe user error. We've got one question. It's a little bit unrelated. How long have you guys been using AWS in your careers? Maybe I'll go to you, Mick, first. How long have you kind of used AWS out of interest?
Yeah, so it was funny actually. I was looking at my first root account age some time ago, and it's 6 years old, so probably nowhere near as long as everybody else, but longer than I thought. So yeah.
Nice. And Paul?
It's hard to think when it was. The very first time I was looking at AWS was we were migrating we were looking to migrate away from a whole bunch of on-prem servers. So at this company, we had a lot of servers that we owned. Then we outsourced them to our local company, and we rented all of those servers. So just a whole bunch of rented VPSs. And at the end of that period, I was looking around, and that's when I sort of saw AWS, and I said to another company, can you manage AWS for us? I want to move to that. I don't really know much about it, but that seems where the industry is going, and I want that. And that was my first foray into it. I would say that's probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, maybe longer.
Nice. And
yeah, I'd have to look it up.
For me, it's only been like 3 years, right? Like properly. I used it like 10 years ago, like for little bits and pieces at work when I needed to. But a lot of the time, like I was working for SaaS vendors that actually had their own infrastructure fully pre-AWS time, and they were like only starting to migrate to AWS. So sometimes I touched it like when we did a deployment on the customer end. But yeah, 3 years and still ramping up and still feel like a complete noob.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it was 2014 was when I was using it. Yeah. So I remember when we were like, wow, this Lambda thing's really cool, but you couldn't connect Lambda to your RDS instances. So we had rules that open to the world, and we were making calls over the internet and stuff, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah, I always joke about the number of services in AWS when I'm sort of doing presentations to say this is how much it's growing, and you pretty much have to update it every 6 months. I remember it being 185, and now it's over 200 in a very short amount of time. So it's very difficult to keep up, or it's impossible to keep up sometimes. So
yeah. It is. Well, let's get back into it. I know that we've got a hard stop in 25 minutes, and I know that we kind of want to get through all of this and make sure that if you're interested in watching She Builds, they'll be on straight after us. Basically, we'll give them maybe 2 minutes in between.
It's good. I can recommend it. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, it is a really good show. Yeah.
So just looking at X-ray, so you can see here ARM container at the top. This is just sorted by response time. So 3.6 seconds for a cold start. And then basically the next one down is going to be the non, so just the native ARM function. And then coming down is going to be the x86 container. So you can see the difference of 3.6 seconds to 1.3 seconds, I think it was. There's your initialization. So under a second for x86. It's still quicker, but like I was saying to Matt earlier, it's come down considerably. I'm sure that was 7 to 9 seconds, something like that on my first test. So I think there might be some background work happening there, just like you said, Matt. So interesting. And I'll just bring up the log.
Through your own applications when you work, Mick, do you typically enable X-ray for everything all the time?
I do, yeah. I've made it a default. I just found it super handy just for everything. Yeah, and definitely that initial triage as well in that testing. You just go straight to the console. You got really great visibility, and the way that it separates it and presents it to you just really surfaces the information to the front. So I just find it really nice and easy to read. So
one of the things I'm really surprised when I talk to customers, and I had a customer yesterday I was talking to, and they hadn't realized that X-ray was more than just for Lambda. So X-ray kind of like tells you about where in the network something's broken, but you can actually embed the SDK within your applications, like your microservice applications, and then when you've got thousands of microservices running and lots and lots of individual nodes on each. X-ray is like invaluable as well there. So I think for people that are considering like getting better observability of what's happening in the microservices workloads, please remember X-ray is going to be a beast in helping you solve problems there.
Yeah, remember months ago, Matt, when we did this segment on large messages through SQS? So I don't think we dived into it, but I was using X-ray there, and I was watching it fan out because that was going to SNS and SQS, and you can watch, the trace of that, that specific message that you're sending through all the way through your stack. And again, like part of it I was using Lambda, but some of it I was using on AppRunner, I think actually, and so I embedded the SDK into AppRunner.
Yep. Nice, and I can see there's a good question. There's a good comment here from Keiichu. So, love X-ray. It can be a little bit pricey. It can be, but it can be a lifesaver as well if you have to troubleshoot an issue, and if you don't have something like this for observability, and you end up spending like 6 hours to recognize where the issue happens. Like legitimately, I've seen that happen with customers before.
I think that's an interesting comment, right? Like, I mean, I do hear this a lot of the time when people say that gets pricey when you're talking about like 6-digit TPS or lots and lots of transactions per second. At the end of the day, if you've got that much transactions per second, that's probably a really good problem to have, because you've probably got a rather large customer base and that cost is well worth it. So at the end of the day, you might say, look, yeah, it does cost some money when you've got a lot of customers, but if that service goes down, how much money is it going to be able to solve? Because you can, dive into it and solve it 10 times quicker than without it.
Just trying to bring up a CloudWatch graph of those 4 functions. This is taking a little bit longer.
No, that's okay. Keep the questions coming, audience side as well, as we wait for this as well.
So I wonder whether the audience has any specific services that they're hoping to see something exciting come out of. I hope we see some new things coming out of Lambda. I know there was something today released around when you're processing, batches of messages from SQS into Lambda. That was in the past, it was like, a fail or a not fail. So you had to reprocess the whole bunch of messages, which meant if you got a batch of messages that was like, let's just say 100 messages came through, you should be building your service to be able to be, atomic. So it should be able to replay those messages without affecting anything. But if you, on the 98th message, if that batch failed, you would have to replay all 100 messages. Whereas now you don't, like it understands where it's up to. So that was released today. But yeah, I'm wondering whether people are excited about specific services in information coming out. I'm keen to hear what will come out with CDK. That begin supporting a number of new services, but it'll be interesting to see what they talk about and release to us in regards to CDK.
One of the things that I do want, it's kind of on the topic of X-ray, because I'm a big fan of like observability, right? Because it can save my life as a TAM a lot of the time, and recognizing issues is I would love to see more investment in like the observability tooling. You know, like maybe X-ray a little bit cheaper, maybe like features of that expand, or CloudWatch features expand, or other kind of open source projects coming into the mix. Like I'd really like to see that area grow, because I do see a lot of customers kind of like, you know, building fast, but then, you know, getting stuck as soon as it becomes really complex, and being able to kind of unwind it as issues kind of occur. And on that, I guess maybe like, you know, expansion of Code Guru, right? Like I would love to see more languages and features come into Code Guru, right? Like, because you know, writing quality code's like pretty important for organizations to get right. You know, reduce the amount of bugs, reduce the amount of issues in production.
Yeah, I mean, they
How about
announced
you,
the
Mick?
Python. Sorry, yeah.
No, I was going to say, how about you, Mick? What are you hoping for? What are you thinking some areas might be?
Yeah, I think the observability is a good one. I haven't thought about it too much, to be honest. I was actually speaking to one of the teams a little while ago about this, and I wasn't too sure what the announcements would be. I'm really just hoping for dark mode in the console. That'd be great.
Nice. That would help.
There is a cookie hack floating around, I think. So there's sort of speculation that we might see it, but I don't know.
Well, it's in the AWS documentation, isn't it? Yeah.
Is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in the AWS documentation at the moment.
Yeah. Cool.
So is this the chart that you've brought up?
Yeah, so just looking at CloudWatch now. So I've just added those metrics on a CloudWatch, just thrown them on as an ad hoc kind of thing. And you can see our test was so small, that's why you're just seeing, you know, 4 dots rather than a proper line chart as such. But you can see basically your x86s are sort of down low, and your ARMs are kind of up higher, basically. So yeah, it's kind of, you know, it is what it is sort of thing. Yep. So just in this particular test, you can see that the ARM is not, it's a little bit slower by the look of it, compared to the x86 for this particular test. So yeah.
Nice.
Because I was offline for a little while, what was happening in the test? Did you guys go through that, or?
Yeah, so basically it's just using the artillery CLI to basically throw some tests at it. So it's very simple. You just have the CLI, you have a YAML file, and you just go through, and it just hits the different API gateway paths that we configured within the stack. And you can kind of see it initially. I was pushing back a little bit, which I'd say is the cold start initialization.
Yep. And what about the actual code inside the function? What was that doing?
It's doing basically calculations. So if you have a look at the code originally, it's just a simple calculation. If we have a look.
So I wonder, like, because the clock cycle is a little slower on the Gravitron, maybe doing like computationally heavy mathematics is one of the reasons why we see it a little bit slower.
Yeah, so it's actually exactly what I was told. So basically, I had a chat with the AWS ARM guys on the community builders channels, and they had a bit of a look into it. For this particular test, this one is going to outperform ARM, and it is based on the clock speed. So this one's going to hit the L1 cache, is what they're saying, and it's just going to return faster. So it just kind of highlights, like, for this particular test, x86 is going to be that little bit faster. You know, you're still going to get the 20% saving as long as it just really depends on how far up they are. And that's probably one of the key things. You know, Lambda ARM is still, it's just priced differently, so it's 20% cheaper. So, you know, if you do your testing and it ends up being a little bit slower and it's fine for you, or it's the same, you're still going to save that 20%. So it might be worthwhile. You're just going to have to test it.
Yep. The other thing is benchmark performance is always different to real world performance too, right? So when you're doing heavy calculations, it's like, you know, how often is that going to happen versus, you know, like handling queries that are coming in, business logic events, etc.
Or handling concurrency or threading within the application? Because I know we've already spoken about like using Go, like performance might be mixed using Go depending on the dependencies that you're using, whether those dependencies have been optimized or not for ARM.
That's very much it. Like it's going to be the dependencies that you're using and the complexity of the app. So, again, if you've written your own dependencies, it's going to be on you to really manage that. But if you're using open source ones, definitely, if you are seeing the slowness, I'd definitely be raising tickets with AWS because it appears they're quite active in the open source community and they might actually be able to help in this space. And they might just not be aware of it. As another test, I actually did a thumbnail sample, which was basically there's a bunch of thumbnails, so 100 thumbnails. They're all 1 meg each. They're sitting in an S3 bucket, and the Lambda function just goes and randomly selects 5 of the thumbnails, and it resizes them. It doesn't upload them to S3. It just does it all on the local temp storage. This was just one that I was working on more recently, just because exactly what you're saying. When you look at the tests that I originally ran, it's trying to stress test the CPU, but it's really hard to relate to it in a real world application. Like it doesn't really give us anything to really play with. So I was kind of just messing around with this resizing because it's quite common to see. There's a lot of examples with AWS saying, use Lambda for resizing thumbnails. You might have a web application and you just want to show someone's profile picture or something like that. It doesn't need to be a meg. You want to resize it, those sorts of things. So this one has got a few different, functions within the Lambda code, which just goes through, like I said, and just resizes the image. It's just using the Pello dependency here, which is what you can see on the left.
So that's all in Python.
It's all in Python. Just using S3, download the 5 random files, resize it. That's it. That's all it does.
And how did that one perform?
It just responds back with like an object of the files that it's resized. This one actually performed better. Yeah. So this was, by my calculations, 24% faster than x86. So, which is a good thing. So I was pleasantly surprised. So it's faster. It's going to be cheaper. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's where you can, it's like you have to sort of do some real world testing. I know I had a customer that I've been working with, and they've got to do some, big scale up events soon, and changing the underlying EC2 instances for their ECS cluster to specific different instances can have surprising benefits. Like they're used to determine one thing or another. So some workloads, there is no golden rule just to say, go ahead and do this. Some workloads will run better because underlying libraries are optimized for one way or the other. But Ko2 has that interesting, that comment that says, be good to be able to use GPUs with Lambda. I mean, that would be an interesting thing to be able to have like access to GPU within Lambda. If that would happen, I know you can definitely use FFmpeg, like FFmpeg layer within Lambda to do video conversions. I've done that before, and that works really well. And actually, depending on the size of the video or audio that you're doing, I think I was doing audio conversions. I think it was still cheaper than using what's it called?
Transcode, yeah.
Transcode to be able to do that. So you have to manage it a little bit more yourself, but it was still cheaper to do it. And that all depends on the sizes that you're doing there.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people use like step functions to AWS batch for something like that, right? Like, so they might have videos on S3 and then they'll render those out with batch. So that could be a good option. But yeah, there's definitely the headroom for GPUs eventually in Lambda, right? Or kind of like, some TPU like thing, like for more machine learning jobs. So it would be really interesting. Maybe that's another thing to add to the wish list for reInvent, right? We'll see. But that would be pretty neat, right? I do kind of think that it won't happen this year, just because we're kind of going through like a GPU shortage globally, like from all levels, right? Like the amount of people that want GPU for workloads is crazy insane. Bitcoin mining, gamers, like like NVIDIA and AMD have been struggling in the last year to kind of keep up with all the demand.
Yeah, I think the SageMaker fans might like it as well. Be interesting to see what they can do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think with when you talk about Lambda as well in this particular use case, just thinking about the CPU calculation plus this thumbnail one, and it just comes back to what the AWS blog was talking about, which was about, you might want to do your own testing, and then what that migration might look like if, with the versioning and aliasing and stuff like that as well. So you can slowly cut over or slowly do testing in sort of real world workloads as well. If you've got that, those options available, would be good.
So I know you've done like this in Python. Was the original test, was that in JavaScript? Or both?
This was always in Python, yeah, just always Python. I've had a number of people ask about different languages, which I just haven't gotten around to. So initially I just wanted to expand out the Python test to something more relatable, which is the thumbnail test right now, which is looking quite good. So I'll publish those results on the Dev2 blog and my blog as well, and on the community builders channel, and you'll be able to see the performance for yourself. And then probably expand out to Node.js would be the next one. Some initial reports are saying I've had some people have some probably not as good performance with Node.js at the moment, but we'll see. I just have to do some testing myself and see.
Oh, there goes Paul again. Hopefully, hopefully he hasn't changed his internet password again. Yeah. Oh, here we go.
I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I heard you say you were going to expand it out to Node. I was just going to say, have you ever used any obscure languages within Lambda? Like I've done it with PHP for a couple of different customers. They wanted to do that. What else? COBOL, Cold Fusion. Yeah, so I've done a few different things, but I know that
Swift,
I built Swift. Yeah, I built an image resize with Go, and it was like I built it all myself using someone else's library to do PNG and JPEG conversions, and nothing could compare to the speed that was able to resize images. Practically instant. We got SEM for C# there. Yep. I built tons of applications with C# and put the whole web API in Lambda.
We did, going back to the GPU thing, I was just going to say, I was thinking like Fargate, right, or ECS or EC2 for larger style videos, like kind of closing that thread.
The payload limit there, you can get around that because you can attach an EFS share. So once I introduced the EFS share, that's where I decided to encode. I don't know what it was, some sort of big, large sample movie I got, and I was using that. So that way you're not having to like pull it down from S3 to encode it and then move it back up. You've got direct access to EFS within Lambda.
EFS is expensive too, though, right?
Yeah, sure. It's expensive. Yeah. I mean, it's comparative, right? Like it's comparatively expensive. If you're having to do like, like you're a media company, you're encoding like, terabytes of videos. You're probably not going to be doing that in Lambda. There's not enough time to do it. But, there's a cost for everything. So it's comparatively expensive, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've only really used Node and Python in Lambda so far. Maybe a little bit of Go, not too much, just on and off, but works quite well. I haven't brought my own language or anything like that. So.
Yep. Oh, I've done C++ too. I had another customer that was doing some audio metrics, customized audio metrics with C++, and we had that all running in Lambda. We ended up bringing that out and compiling a binary and invoking that binary with Python in the Lambda function. It was easier than using the C++ library, but yeah, that's still there, and that's pretty performant as well.
The other thing is, like, it would be interesting, Mick, for Python 3.9, I can see the runtime is available for ARM now. So that might be something that I'd love to kind of read about in the future as you kind of like, do a bit more work on this in your blog. I'm aware of time. So what I am going to say is definitely think about attending reInvent, right? So let me get my screen share up again. Mentioned at the very start. Here we go. Yep, perfect. So reInvent is going to be big next week. There's going to be a ton of stuff that's going to be announced. A bunch of stuff that will probably get Paul and I really excited and streaming again, in an impromptu manner. So follow us on Devs in the Shed. We are actually going to, like, we use this to back up of all the videos because Twitch only keeps them for like 2 weeks. but we are going to effectively, do a video on at least the Amplify CDK stuff this week. There's one thing that Paul's really excited about around Lambda that we might get another video out next week if that is a thing. But there's going to be a ton of stuff. So definitely think about like registering for reInvent, finding out the sessions that are of interest to you, but also during the week itself, come November 29, the keynote will have a whole bunch of really cool announcements, and you'll probably see a whole bunch of new things go, get announced and have extra tracks for as well. So that seems to happen every year. So I'm expecting it's going to happen this year. So go ahead and
the other thing to remember is like there's usually giveaways and swag even for like virtual attendees. So go to the sessions and mark yourself off as being there and look through what is happening. I deal with a lot of retail customers, and I thought I would share this. I did share it on my LinkedIn, but this is a specific guide that could be like very, a tailored set of sessions that might, align really well for anybody that's in the retail space. So check that out as well. And Matt, I know you shared the DevOps one.
I shared that on LinkedIn. The other thing is like, Mick, it's been awesome having you on today. So please feel free, everyone, to subscribe. I'm guessing there's an RSS feed for the blog as well, Talk in the Cloud.
Yes, there is. Yep, I think so. Yep.
Yeah. So
thanks for having me. It was really good. Thank you.
No problems at all. But subscribe and you'll be able to see some of the performance gains. And there's a ton of stuff coming out with Lambda as well. So I'm sure Mick's probably going to do some work there as well. I'm guesstimating. Now, the last thing is we are going to have a December developer celebration, right? So we're going to have some extra giveaways next month. We're going to hopefully have T-shirts if I can get onto drawing. Yeah, no pressure on me. So if we we're going to have some giveaways at least, right? So come and join us next month. We've created a really cool project. We are not going to be online next week because it's reInvent, right? Like so come to the YouTube channel as I shared beforehand. If we get excited, we'll post something there. But we'll keep AWS Twitch free for reInvent next week, but we'll be there. We'll be online the week after, same time as usual, 12 p.m. AEDT time. But you can subscribe if you go to the Twitch schedule too, or you can watch us live on YouTube too. So definitely do that. And we're really excited to show this Christmas project that we've built. And Aaron, I know you're in the chat. Where are you, Aaron? Here we are. So Aaron, he helped us work on this. So hopefully we see him in the next couple of weeks as well. We're really keen to show off what we've built and have everyone play with it. So keep your eyes open for the November episode in 2 weeks' time, and we'll cut off for now. If you want to watch the next show, feel free to stay for 2 minutes, and you have she builds, I think.
Yep, it will be. That'll be she builds with my. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks
Nick, for coming.